the one and only, the legend, the former Olympic gold medalist, 1996. He won it with a broken freaking neck. My old pal, Kurt Angle, on the show. Wow, what a great honor this is. Kurt, how are you?
Great, Ariel. It's great to talk to you again. You've done really well for yourself, and I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you, Kurt. I appreciate that greatly. You had faith in me long before many did, so I really appreciate that. It's nice. It's nice to talk to you after all these years. We have a lot to talk about, but first, you're very visible in the world of MMA. I don't know if you know this, but your 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 impression is being felt all over the place. I have to ask first and foremost, arguably the most hated person in this sport, Colby Covington, used your entrance song a couple of weeks ago to walk out. How did you feel about that?
Well, before he did it, he had a friend of his contact me, Bobby Lashley, and Bobby called me and he said, "Hey, there's this fighter named Colby Covington." I said, "I know he is." He said, "Well, he wants to use your entrance music to come out because come out to his fight, and he wanted to do it because he wanted the fans to chant 'You suck.'" So I said, "It's all his. He can have it, man. If he wants to do it, God bless him. That's great."
He is very polarizing. I'm sure you know a little bit about the gimmick that he's doing these days. How do you feel about that? Like I've said that, Vince probably wishes he could do something like this. He gets nuclear heat. He showed up to the event on Saturday, and the whole place started booing him. How do you feel about him using something like that in the world of mixed martial arts in the fight game?
I think it's extraordinary. I think that he has something that nobody else has, and he understands. He gets the entertainment factor of it. Obviously, we're talking about a real sport. I think the baddest sport on the planet. But you have to add a little bit of entertainment to it, and he has that mind for it, just like Conor McGregor.
Are you still watching MMA these days as much as you were when we were talking way back when?
Not as much, but I keep tabs. I got my favorites. Cormier, Cejudo, Henry Cejudo. I love Nate Diaz. I think he's an awesome individual. Just really exciting to watch, and he's one of the toughest kids I've ever seen in that octagon. So, ironically, Cormier took my spot in the Olympics after I left, and he ended up wrestling in my weight class for 2 Olympics. So I was always following him, and he's done an incredible job the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about Henry Cejudo because it does feel like he's kind of taken your gimmick as well. He walks around with the medal and he tries to be like the Olympic hero, the American hero, but he gets everyone to boo him these days and call him cringy and all that. Have you seen what he's doing, and do you see parallels between what he's doing and what you did when you first started to get over around 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think I think I'm not. I don't think he did it because of me. Whether he did or not, I really don't know. But you're right. He gets it, and it gets a reaction, and that's what's most important. The last thing you want fans to do is not say anything. You either want them to cheer for you, or you want them to boo you because they care about you one way or the other. But if you walk out there and you hear crickets, you're not doing something. You're doing something wrong, or you're not doing something right. So I think Henry he gets it too, and he's using the gimmick, and I love it.
You're on today to help us promote the King of the Ring, which starts tonight. And I have to be honest, I thought the King of the Ring was dead, but it has been revitalized, and it kicks off tonight on USA Network beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern. Is it the same format? Like I remember when you won it, Kurt, around 19 or so years ago. Is it the same kind of format,
Yeah.
or have they changed it?
It was, I think, an 8-man format back then. Now it's 16.
Wow.
But keep in mind, the all 8 men were at the pay-per-view. You had to wrestle 3 times at King of the Ring if you wanted. Now they're doing tournament format during Raw and SmackDown leading up to the pay-per-view, and I think the finals will be at the pay-per-view. So I wrestled 2 years in a row. I wrestled 3 matches in one pay-per-view because of King of the Ring. So it was really, really tough back then, but they made it a little easier, at least where you're not wrestling every match all in one night.
I was very happy that I had the opportunity to be at your retirement match back in April. I don't know if you know that, but I was lucky enough to be at WrestleMania, and it was really cool to see. And I'm wondering, are you officially done, or in combat sports and pro wrestling, people say they're done a million times and they come back. Are you 100% done? Will you never wrestle again?
You know what? I don't plan on it. I wish I could, but I'm 50 years old. Well, I'll give you a quick story. When I came back to WWE, I was really in great shape. Unfortunately, the WWE wanted me to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. That's what Vince McMahon wanted. So I did that first, and I told Vince I wasn't retired yet. And then he gave me the GM job, and I said, Vince, I still want to wrestle. He said, we'll get to it. Well, because I sat out for so long, and especially in professional wrestling, I could even say in UFC and MMA, if you sit out too long, your body gets arthritic. You lose that, that when you're inactive, especially when you get older, you start getting a lot more arthritis, soreness, and by the time I was wrestling consistently, I couldn't do it anymore. So basically, sitting out really affected me, and unfortunately, I didn't go that long.
And so now, how are you feeling? How would you describe your health these days?
Well, I'm meeting with a doctor next month. I'm gonna have stem cell therapy shots put in my knees and my neck to help me. A lot of guys have been doing it lately. It's not a cheap surgery or cheap procedure, but it's very effective. So I know BioAccelerator. They're actually talking to a lot of pro wrestlers, a lot of MMA fighters. I think Mark Coleman's going to go down. It's actually in Colombia, and this company is really reputable. So I'm excited about doing it, and hopefully it'll work for me.
Yeah, actually, a colleague of ours here at ESPN, Gilbert Melendez, a longtime fighter, just did that and was raving about the experience down in Colombia. So maybe a little endorsement there for them. Would you do anything differently, Kurt? Like thinking back on your career, you took a lot of risk. You put your body through a lot of pain. In hindsight, do you wish you did things differently?
Yeah, I wish I would have done more maintenance, stretching, yoga, just taking care of my body. I mean, I literally, when I was going on all pistons, I wouldn't even warm up before I went out there. I just, do a couple of, twists with my, my arms back and forth and go out there and wrestle. And it had a long-term effect on me. You got to take care of your body, especially when you're abusing it the way I did. So I was okay till I turned about 45, and then it started going downhill right away.
How do you feel about the state of the business these days? It seems like it's very hot. It seems like there's a lot of options for the guys, different promotions doing things overseas here in America. How do you feel about the state of the business right now?
I think it's as good as it's ever been as far as wrestlers being able to get work. There are only so many slots in WWE, but they even have quite a following with their NXT and their Raw and SmackDown brands. They're even going global where there are going to be NXT camps in each continent. So they're going to need a lot more wrestlers, but the independents are doing really well. This new company, AEW, New Japan. So there are a lot of options, and that's really good for the wrestlers. But, the number one company, and it will always be number one, is WWE.
Yeah. And what about your friend Brock Lesnar? He was flirting with a return. Do you think we'll ever see him fight again, or do you think he's officially done?
I hope he does return. I know he said that he's retired, but I think the one fight he wants, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but he wants to go up against Jon Jones.
Yeah.
I think that would be an extraordinary fight. They're very different. Their sizes are extremely the opposite, but Brock's a freak. He might not win all his fights. He might not be the most polished fighter, but he is an incredible athlete. I mean, he could do anything he wanted. If he wanted to play football or pro baseball, he can adapt to anything. Brock is an incredible athlete, and wrestling him in the ring, I knew how great of an athlete he truly is. This kid could play basketball. He's unbelievable.
What did you think of how Ronda did?
I was so proud of Ronda. I got the opportunity to train her, especially for WrestleMania, and she used to make fun of me because of my Graps gloves. I'm endorsing a company called Graps, which they do gloves so you don't have to tape your fingers. And they're doing really well, and Ronda would pick on me about it. But she taped her fingers, I put on my Graps, and then I got her to put them on, and she actually liked them. But Ronda is she made the transition as quickly as I did. And I have to give her a lot of credit for that because I never thought she was going to be able to do it. You know, a lot of these athletes want to step into the ring. They want to, you know, go at the level of Kurt Angle or The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they find out that they just can't do it. Ronda knew how to do everything. She knew how to bump properly. She could sell well. She just got it. She was one girl, one female that stepped in and got it right away, and it blew me away. I mean, she might have learned quicker than I did.
And last thing for you, Kurt, I'm wondering if you saw the highlights of Cain Velasquez's pro wrestling debut, Lucha Libre debut. Did you see him? I was blown away by how agile he was. Do you think he has a future?
I do think he does have a future. He's another guy that gets it, and he's just really athletic. I mean, the things he can do, it's really impressive, and I think that he could step into the squared circle and do extremely well. I do want to plug one thing. I did a movie last year called Chasing Molly. It's a really funny movie. If anybody wants to go check it out at iTunes and Amazon Prime, that would be great. I got to play, ironically, a drug kingpin, and had a lot of fun doing it. Very funny movie.
All right. I will check that out. Yeah, one of the highlights of my young career back in the day was writing a little skit for you back in Orlando, Kurt.
I remember.
You remember that?
You know, man, you've come a long way, brother.
We have come a long way. Thank you so much for doing this, Kurt, and I really appreciate it, and good luck with everything you're doing, and I hope to talk to you and see you again very soon.
Okay, take care, Ariel.
All right, there he is, Kurt Angle. Again, the WWE 2019 King of the Ring tournament kicks off tonight on Raw at 8 p.m. Eastern on USA Network. Raw and SmackDown will feature tournament matches weekly tonight through September 10th, with the finals at Clash of Champions on Sunday, September 15th. I don't know if I've shared this story, but in my younger days, I met Kurt Angle because I was working for Spike TV, and we had an opportunity to do some stuff for TNA. He was wrestling for TNA. I wrote a skit for SpikeTV.com, and we did it at the Universal lot, and I really got to know Kurt very well. And I actually drove him from the hotel to the lot. We spent a lot of time together. He told me that I reminded him of Brian Gewirtz, who's a longtime WWE writer. Now I think he works for The Rock exclusively, who also went to Syracuse. And Kurt couldn't have been nicer to me, and even tried to get me a job as a TNA creative team member. I had a brief conversation with Jeff Jarrett at the time. Didn't work out. Kurt was actually the one who told me about Chris Benoit, and that horrible tragedy. We were actually really close. He was talking to me about when the IFL came to him and tried to get him to sign there, The Ultimate Fighter. There was a period where we were very close. Over time, we sort of drifted apart, but Kurt was very kind to me early on. And when I started my career as a journalist and I launched JerryPark.com, October of 2007, my very first interview was with Kurt Angle, October of 2007. Dave Meltzer wrote about it, gave me like an hour and a half. He had just gotten in a bit of hot water and spoke about that, and was always just, salt of the earth kind of guy, and always very kind to me. And it was nice to catch up with him. Hello, everyone. It's Ariel Helwani. I just came here to thank you for watching our ESPN YouTube channel. It's the best. You know what else is the best? The ESPN app. You can get highlights, analysis, all that stuff and more. And if you want premium content and live streaming sports, there's only one place for all of that. It's ESPN Plus.